Hello and welcome everybody to the North American Challengers League Spring Split Week 1 Day 3, where I'll be hosting today along with Mazel as caster. I can't believe we finally get to be on a broadcast together for the first time. And we got Beatdown Boulevard joining us, the newest member joining us on the broadcast. So Beatdown, let's start with you. How was your weekend? Now it's a Monday. It's a new week technically.
Weekend was good. I mean, you may not know this, but Challengers League just started on Saturday, and it's been great so far. I've been loving that. Well, how was your weekend?
That's what this show is. So yes,
yeah.
I was aware that it started.
I didn't
actually
get the memo.
Well, technically, this is Pat the LCS stream, so make sure that you're pulling up both of them. Mazel, how was your weekend?
Right. My bad. I was talking about the league as a whole, Kangas.
My weekend's great. Also, we've just had back-to-back banger days in NACL, especially yesterday. So it's been pretty hype. I'm excited for today.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of fun action ahead of us. But if you're just tuning in right now and you haven't kind of understood the transition from what was Academy into now the Challengers League, we actually put together a whole format video to break it all down for you. So let's start off by taking a look at that.
Welcome to the North American Challengers League. We've gone through quite a few renovations coming into 2023, but worry not, I'll be your guide. As we prepare for the next chapter of semi-pro play, why don't I give you a tour of some of the changes we have in store. The 2023 North American Challengers League will feature an expanded 16 teams that fall into one of two categories. The 10 franchise teams from last season will be known as fixed teams. Our 6 expansion teams will be known as provisional teams. These categories have implications on relegations, one of our big new changes. Only provisional teams can be relegated. We'll talk more about this in a moment. Moving on to the regular season, which consists of a single round robin where every team in the league will face off against each other in a best of 2. At the end of the regular season, all teams will be seeded into a double elimination playoffs bracket. After 3 weeks of play, we'll have a champion crowned on March 29th. This takes us to relegations. The 4 lowest placing provisional teams will compete against the top 4 from the 2 NACL qualifiers. This promotion tournament will take place on April 17th. The top 4 teams from this promotion tournament will qualify for promotion into the NACL summer. We'll have more updates on this as we get closer to the date. With more teams, games, and opportunities for promotion, I have no doubt in my mind we're in for the most exciting season of semi-pro play yet. Be sure to catch the North American Challengers League's first day on January 21st at 1 p.m. Pacific. I'll see you there.
So, TLDR, the biggest change that I'm the most excited about is the addition of the provisional teams. Mazel, we've been talking about this all off-season, having more teams, more players, and more opportunities for players to develop. They're really cool.
Competition itself, having those relegations, having something that these teams are fighting for. I think it's super interesting, and we've all loved the Proving Grounds format, and now we get a full season of it.
And actually, Julius just tweeted out something about that today. I don't know if either of you saw that. He put out a tweet longer explaining kind of his view from a player to coach perspective. A shout out to Coach Julius out there, by the way. He's played collegiate, he's played amateur, all kinds of things. But he was saying that adding relegations, like right now, the ecosystem, if you are a player trying to go pro, there's way more options, right? Like it seems like there's a more clear path to get there, which is really cool. So happy for the format changes. But it's all about the teams and the players today. And we got a very exciting matchup ahead of us to end the week. So let's take a look.
Are you ready for something big? Are you ready for a super heavyweight showdown? 2 jugglers face off against their old teams for a battle you better not miss. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner. This man is a jungler they try to deny. Silenced once, so he lets his gameplay do the talking. One of the top prospects of 2022. The man will farm camps. The man will farm neutrals. The man will farm you. It's Shaden! And his opponent, fighting out of the blue corner. This man rose from prodigy to academy, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. In his debut split, he would push the previous year's champions to a brutal 5 games. The voice that booms from the heavens and quakes the jungle, Tome!
points down for a slugfest. Who will rise to the challenge? Find out in this week's Challengers League Super Heavyweight Smackdown!
Shane's looking ripped, bro.
He's been hitting the gym. Man.
One of these days, we're actually going to be told, no, we can't air something on broadcast. And when that day comes, it's going to be a sad day, but also we're pushing the line already.
I love that you added the dab in there. Just had to.
Yeah, it's the Usain Bolt, you know, every time
I need more side profiles of Shading, because if we can't get all the players like in front of a green screen to act out things, I at least need different perspectives. Shaded, please stream more. I went to your stream, but I could not find anything with your face on it. But that is, of course, going to be on the Challengers League stream. So this is Path to LCS. We have our own schedule ahead of us. That is our heavyweight smackdown / showdown. We called it both in the video.
Shout outs to Death
but
Threat.
you know what? Yeah, shout out to Destrix for the great VO, but go check that one out because that is going to be an insane jungle matchup. And now, a reminder for anybody else, if you want to be featured in one of these silly videos that we do going forward, hey, you should be checking out certain sign-up links because we have the NACL, not only selection committee going on right now, sign-ups for that, I believe, are due. Okay, we have the information down below right now. If you want to be on the selection committee for teams joining the NACL qualifiers, sign up now. You can check out the tweet. There is a link to sign up. And for any teams that want to participate, if you're a player that's like, hey, I want to try and get into the path to LCS, I want to go pro, get a team together, sign up as well. Those signups, the end, I believe, is the 25th. So you have one extra day.
1 p.m. PST.
Yes, make sure you are signing up. We want to get in as many teams as possible into the qualifiers because the top teams from the qualifiers get an opportunity to play against the bottom 4 provisional teams from this tournament for a spot in the summer season.
A spot.
Or a spot.
The biggest thing. It brings back all those cool stories of, you know, the tried and true challenger days and all that good stuff. So, hey, go in there and go sign up, please.
Exactly. And again, the selection committee, if you're somebody who's like a coach or an analyst, anybody who thinks that you know enough about the players that will be signing up, the teams that will be signing up for that, sign up as well, because then you might have an opportunity to get on the committee, and then they're the ones that decide seeding, things like that. With that, though, you had already a weekend of games. This is the 3rd day of broadcast, but we got to see some really cool stuff happen earlier in the week. One particular thing was the Garen from Moose Hater, which was absolutely insane, and we had an opportunity to even chat with Moose Hater about how his offseason was going and what their focus was going into this split. So we wanted to take an opportunity to highlight him.
I was so excited. I was like, we need to start NACL a week earlier because I'm so excited to just absolutely destroy the first team we verse and then just see all the excuses from the analysts saying, oh, actually, IMT has their LCS mid laner, not their Academy mid laner, so they weren't supposed to win this one against Wildcard. You know, just random excuses like that. Just they always like to make excuses, but Wildcard is easily, we're going to be a good team. So I'm confident.
Sonny, Moose Hater's already turning heads beat down. He's quickly becoming a fan favorite after one weekend of play.
He has been, and he just showed that. I mean, we were talking about it yesterday on broadcast as well. We had Myra from CLG on the broadcast. This is how it goes with last year. It was with amateur and proving grounds, and this year it is provisional teams and Challengers League. You are facing these teams. You gotta pass the test, the simple test, where things like Wixie's Draven or Garen of Moose Hater, you just can't let these things go through, drop the ego, take it out, and Immortal scale that.
Yeah, and it was fun to watch the Moose Hater story following along, but there was another top laner that had an insane play over the weekend, so we had to take another opportunity to highlight Bradley, who picked up a pentakill in the first weekend of NACL, and we even got the cool replay here, cinematic experience, baby. He was in a 2v5, by the way, mind you, Bazell. There was only a Nami with him.
On Twitter, he posted the clip of the actual the team fight with the comms and everything, and a lot of the comments. He was responding to all the comments, and one of the comments was like, "Why do they just keep running into your Counter Strike? Do they know it stuns?" He's like, "Well, I guess they do now." I think that's actually hilarious, and love the Cassante. That is the hope that leaves as Bradley gets a pentakill here.
It's funny too because I remember something at the end too. It's Arrow who just at the end is like sheesh, and it got it, and it made him feel good. He started saying sheesh too. It was great.
Everybody, I think, joined in. It was just like a chorus of sheeshes. So go check out Bradley's Twitter account. You can get the his POV along with the team comms, which is hilarious. But we wanted to put together a fun little cinematic experience, so you can really feel like
makes it look cooler. Hopefully, he can use that for his next reel.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, we'll probably get some mileage out of that one going forward ourselves on the broadcast too. Let's be honest. I imagine we'll see that again. Let's take a look at the standings though from the first 2 days of broadcast of competition. Not every team has played 2 games. Some teams after today will have already played 3. Sheesh indeed.
4-0 for CLG Challengers, man.
Yeah.
Rocking off the bat.
Arguably the easier schedule of any of the Challenger teams. They had 2 provisional teams in their first 2 matches, so it is important to note that. Based on just, expectations going in, we kind of have a higher expectation for the Challenger teams. But Wildcard 2-0, that was big against Immortals Challenger, and C9 Challenger also stomping their 2 games. Yeah. So we got 3 teams undefeated.
I love to see that.
Yes.
I think it's exciting that a lot of provisional teams have had some good performances. I think we got to be fair, where even some provisional teams have this issue of visas, not being able to scrim fully. So although it's really cool looking at these standings and everything, like how well a lot of these teams are doing, but like you said, things like strength of schedule, Kangas, and this issue with scrims means that things might change next week. And I think that makes it more exciting.
Also, shout out to CLG Faith and Fly Fam. Both 0-4, but they're playing each other today on the other stream. So if you're checking out Challengers League on Twitch, that's where you can find that one today. On Path to LCS Twitch, we have Wildcard versus AOE to kick things off. And then Golden Guardians Challenger versus Cincinnati Fear. And FlyQuest Challenger versus TSM Challenger. Full set of best of 2s ahead of us. 6 total matches between the 2 streams, Mazzil.
Man, so huge shout out to the first series. It's the AOE reunion here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. Shout outs to Golden Guardians in the second one. This is going to be their 3rd day of best of 2. Yeah. Since they're the only team that has to play all of this weekend at least. And so it's going to be a big trek for the Golden Guardians. I'm really excited to see what they can do against Fear, who are themselves popping off.
Yeah, B-Town, we were actually doing the math. I believe that is it 4 teams each week that will get 3 series, like they play every day? I forget what it was. It was either 4 or 6. We can check that later.
Oh, no, there are 4.
Because I know CLG teams. Faith and Fly Fam are both also going into their 3rd days in a row. But regardless, we can confirm that later on.
We'll double check.
Don't do math on stream.
It's always a bad idea. It's always a bad idea. But let's get into the matchup ahead of us. AOE Gold coming in as a provisional team, and the big hype around this is that this does not feel like a provisional team when you watch the play and you look at the names on this roster, Mazzell. There's a lot of returning members to this level of play, what used to be Academy, now Challenger.
Well, the beautiful thing is you got a little bit of remembrance yesterday where we had some insane games for AOE as a whole, but Gamsu coming up clutch with the inevitability that is him winning games somehow, and then you also just have the rest of the roster, right? Winnie obviously being extremely crucial in how the structure and the pillar of this team is played, and especially having talked to Winnie a little bit and getting some messages from him, the big focus for this team is on the early games, setting up structure and execution in the early games for a team that also hasn't been able to scrim with their mid laner Darkwings.
And here's that Gobsu.
It's inevitable, man.
You were talking about it. He did get a backdoor yesterday, and the clip right before that was like at 30 minutes. They were defending their base. They had 2 inhibitors down. They win a fight. But this is what I want to highlight, Beatdown. AOE, watch. They're surrounded by 4 members, and they say, no, we're going in. We're just going to win anyway. Throughout the entire day, Winnie was so decisive in when he was going for plays.
That's the way he is. He's a big voice on the team. Him and SkyTech are the ones making these sorts of decisions in terms of fights, and that's how they turn things around. They've been playing together for so long, and I think that experience really helps them.
But they're up against Wildcard that you see on your screen right now. Beatdown, I'm going to give it right back to you. Moose Hater, we got to see the clip from him earlier on in the pre-show. He's feeling confident. They are 2-0 right now. Wildcard are coming in hot today.
I think this is a team, as a watcher of Provisional or last year's Semi-Pro, I'm very excited about. If you were watching Proving Grounds in summer last year, AOE Ginger Turmeric, that was what Mazel was alluding to when he said the AOE reunion, was 3/5 of this roster. Moose Hater, Keel, and Duo King were part of the teams, was part of the team that made such a crazy run in Proving Grounds, and that core, having someone like Lens, who I think was one of the best performing AD carries last year, outside of Academy at the time, I think it's really exciting the kind of firepower he's going to bring to this team. And I think Soligo's a solid player as well, who really rounds out this roster.
Yeah, I agree. I can't agree more, right? The Lens focus, it kind of works out in itself, but as well as just seeing kind of that holdover from AOE and the strength that we've already seen in the early part of the season, and really wanting to see that kind of cohesion come together, looking at Keel and Soligo, the mid-jungle duo, but as well, do they continue to kind of opt into the strength of the top lane, or do they try to find different ways to be kind of flexible in this meta?
And Soligo is a player that we've had our eyes on for quite a while. We've known him around the Academy LCS scene, up against, remember, the LCS mid laner for Immortals, because they needed to bring in a Blaze Olive for this weekend, and they still picked up the win. But here we go. Charge, baby. Moose Hater on the Garen, flexing a very unique champ pool. He also even played the Zac earlier on in the day, but you could just make a highlight reel of just the Garen play.
You could, and I mean, that's exactly what Deserex ended up doing. Shout out to him for that one. Yeah, literally. And is really, honestly, again, now, I mean, since they're playing against AOE, this is definitely a team who's going to be paying some respect to some of these pocket picks. And I'm sure when we get the champ select, we're going to see the Garen out of the picture, because realistically, I don't know. If I'm any top laner, I don't want to deal with that. Keep in mind, that ADD, I think, got like so traumatized that he just last picked it in yesterday's series as well. I'm not sure what it didn't end up working out for him the same way, but it's just like at this point he's forcing another top laner to like fight their own demons.
It's going to be fun to see Moose Hater versus Gamsu as well, but I do have to remind everybody that because relegations does happen at the end of the split for any teams that are in the bottom four from the provisionals, when you go up against another provisional team, it is that much more important to pick up wins, because this could determine tiebreakers in those kinds of scenarios. Exactly. So with that said, expectations set. I'm going to send it over to the casters, because I'm hearing that we're ready for pick and ban of game number 1.
I get to take it away. Oh my goodness. This is going to be fun. I'm excited to get to cast this one with you, Beatdown, and we are getting right into it. Wildcard versus AOE Gold. And we'll see if we do get that Garen ban. Already we're getting the Duo King Senna ban away from him. We get the meta pick and the Heimer ban away as well, Beatdown.
Yeah, see, but then this is what I mean, Mazel, and what I was alluding to. The respect is being paid by AOE. They understand. They're like, all right, look, Duo King's on the other team. That's a really strong pick for him. Just get it out of the way. There's no question about it. And beyond that, we're just going to start to see some of the more common top laners coming through here. Fiora, I'm interested to see if Cassante gets taken away, because that's Fiora's like one of his worst matchups, and it's really the only one of the two that he really struggles with. So I'm wondering if they're setting that up.
Well, and we also still have so many meta picks that need to be banned away right now. Obviously, Maokai is added there. Ryze has been such a crucial pick in the mid lane right now with all the changes to the itemization and those AP carries, the Fiora as well, as you mentioned. But that leaves a lot on the table. I like the Lucian ban. Won't see the Lucian Nami this time around, which opens up that AD champ pool a little bit more than what we've seen, at least in my history. And we do get the Sejuani first pick for Winnie, another comfort pick.
Yeah, Winnie's that kind of player where he's a really big enabler for his team. So getting him a pick where you can have that early game impact, and it happens to be one that's pretty popular across the weekend, especially with things like Maokai constantly being taken off the table. I like that start here for AoE. I'm interested because Lucian being off the table, what we've seen a lot of in the bottom lane is that, Lucian Nami versus Zeri Lulu, but Wildcard Gaming, they immediately worked. And not only that, this is one of Lens's best champions. Last year, when Kalista was more popular, more prevalent, and you ran things like Kalista Renata, he was tearing up the bot lane with Sword.
I think that's going to be something extremely crucial for AoE to get a handle on in this series, but specifically this game. I think Sejuani already gives you a decent answer in it, but here we go.
We already know.
We're right back to the first game special, apparently, right now for Moose Hater. It's the Zac that comes through.
Yeah, almost certainly going to the top lane or Wildcard Gaming. Like you said, Mazel, really great performance before. Not so great in lane, but incredible in the team fights. And that's basically the Moose Hater special at this point. So now you already offer a lot of engage and also a bit of heal. Less pounds for your AD carries, but it's going to be into the K'Sante more than likely. So I'm interested to see if he's going to be able to heal for Lens, because although Kalista, very mobile, K'Sante is unreasonably mobile as far as top laners go. And we've seen examples all across the weekend how a champion like K'Sante can just keep on top of an AD carry.
And K'Sante for me is also just one of those picks that you can never count him out. Even if you see him 0-4 and 15 minutes in, right? Like at some point he's going to do K'Sante things, and we'll have to kind of keep tabs on that one as well. We do get the additional Freljordian champion in the Ashe to make sure that Mr. Lens isn't moving too fast.
Right, and I mean, honestly, it's a good answer right off the bat, because one, it's something
Link's we get the change up. They're throwing everyone for a loop here. We get the Garen locked in, so that
we got so it is Zac jungle.
The Keel jungle, or maybe even Duo King picking up the Zac support. We have everything in front of us.
Oh, that's true. These players, man, it's really hard to know what they're all about, but it is going to be the Garen on 3. And I mean, I think this isn't one of the, at least so far from the 3 I'm seeing from AOE Gold, it's not the worst situation, because the last series where he brought it out, Garen was excellent into the enemy's team composition. So this time around, you have field tools, you have CC, you have slows, so you can kind of somewhat keep Garen off of you, but the big thing is you really need to keep Moose Hater behind in this game.
Yeah, I think we obviously already hinted at the kind of laning, but I would like to see kind of pressure put on Moose Hater at this point, and I think especially with the Garen, you could see a lot more strength in that laning. So the change up from AoE might be in this second phase here, but we do have the Varus banned by Wildcard and the Soraka banned by AoE, so a little bit of different targets, but same lane.
Yeah, and the Soraka one is interesting. You want to definitely remove a lot of sustain to this team fight, because I think over time in Wildcard, at least with what they've got so far, especially when you have Kalista, Garen, they like long fights because they can really maximize the DPS that they're going for here. Overall, a lot of target bans that make sense. I mean, Azir, good right now. Darkwing's particularly good on the pick.
Yes,
and at this point, I think we're going to see if AoE Gold want to take away another support, maybe ban away a mid laner for Soligo. A lot of mids are still up and available that we've seen play, like Orianna, things like that. Oh, you know what? The Blitzcrank is good. That's the Duo King special.
Got a couple specials, especially it'd be more comfort for him as he's already played 2 games of it so far, and the Kalista combo is really ridiculous. But now, got to look into the second phase. I expect to see some more setup for the team comp of Wildcard, maybe get a little bit more beefiness. And speaking of beef, you might have the cow himself. That would be a pretty crucial pick here for Wildcard, and it is locked in.
Yeah, this is just Wildcard piling on into the all-in potential of this team comp. Like, this is... And they're going to be so tanky and difficult to take down. So the thing is, I think AoE Gold might have to consider whether or not they're going to have this Ashe as a support or the AD carry, because Ashe, a lot of good utility, does pretty decent damage, but into 3 tanks from what we're seeing, I think is going to be very difficult here. And I feel like they're going to need something really strong damage-wise in the mid lane, since we are seeing the Renata lock in.
Yeah, the Renata's an interesting one, because obviously meaning the Ashe will be going to Lynx for the most part, and really, really need something strong in the mid lane. Need something for Winnie to play off of for Darkwings. We already talked about a little bit how they haven't gotten a scrim with Darkwings, but the plan is early game focus and structure in the early game, which against this wildcard composition, I feel like it's going to be a little bit tough to come by, but the Silas here for Darkwings could alleviate that to some extent.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of like this one just because you can... It's very common that when you see Alistar picked, Silas is up and available. Like, Silas with that Unbreakable Will is just absolutely filthy there. So you already have a good amount of CC on AoE Gold side. Now, they want some utility. Obviously, Silas scales well, is going to do a lot of damage later on, and is going to be able to sustain in these fights. Because again, big health bars on Wildcard side. These fights are going to get long.
They are going to be long. I'm liking that we have some scaling options as well picked up. You get the Orianna locked in for Soligo in the end, which I think provides some of that carryover, some of that bridging into the late game, and a lot of stability in the team fights for them. But immediately my eyes are on AoE and how Winnie is going to get involved in this one. Keel on the Zac, something we don't necessarily see as much in the jungle, but has a lot of that setup once he gets to level 6. And even
Absolutely.
before, honestly.
I was going to say, yeah, the interesting thing about champs like Zac and Bard to me is how you don't see them pop up very often in the meta, and they can set up plays in very unique ways. Zac, of course, with his jump, and Bard with the portal. So in this case, Keel, I mean, of course, we're seeing Zac pop up a little more lately, so hopefully AOE Gold
Especially
are
for
prepared
Wildcard,
for it.
you know?
Yeah, especially for Wildcard. So these are things you're going to have to be cognizant of, especially because it's Zac jungle. So, you know, on your red side, you're on red side as Wildcard. If you're pushed up too much in the bot lane, it very well come over the wall by the tower. These angles that other junglers cannot do are things you have to be careful of.
So I want to talk a little bit more breadth for both these two teams. When we're looking at this early part for AOE, we've already said that they are heavy focus on that, but do you see any at least play through the bottom lane? Do you mostly see them balancing between these two solo?
I think we're going to see probably more focus towards the bottom side of the map, especially because Kalista is that kind of champion where, okay, one, Lynx and Skytech will probably have push in this lane just because Renata in range is also very good at assisting and getting pushed in the bot lane. I think Winnie wants to keep focus on that side of the map because that's going to be a big target for Field. You have Lens on one of his signature picks in the Kalista, a champ very dominant in the early game. You're looking to skirmish, you're looking to get involved, and if you're Winnie, you want to make sure as few of those situations as possible are 2v3 in Wildcard's favor. And that's what he's got to be so careful of.
And then on Wildcard, I would say, right, you do have that big focus towards that bottom lane, but are you just kind of leaving Moose Hater to his Garen needs in the top side? You're just letting him do what he does against the Gamsu Katante?
I think it's okay in this situation because, I mean, this is a perfect time to talk about Gamsu a little bit more, where, like you said, this is AOE core returning with Gamsu and Darkwings, two solo laners who have played at pretty high levels. I mean, Gamsu has played at very high levels of play over in LCK and everything like that. It was even a pro in Overwatch, which I love bringing up because I used to keep an eye on that. Yeah, and now since he came back to League of Legends, playing in things like semi-pro in the past year or two, playing at this level as well, whatever team you put him on, Mazel, he's a rock. He is able to absorb so much pressure and give away so very little with no jungle attention, with little to no jungle attention from whatever jungler is on his team. So I imagine that's going to be very similar in this game as well. And this is the kind of dynamic that AOE can go for because you have a player like Gamsu on your team.
Exactly that. Well, we're getting into it now. Our first series of the day, Wildcard versus AOE Gold. We've already set some of the stakes here, but especially keeping a keen eye on Keel and Winnie in the jungle, see what the setup looks like earlier on. And back to your point about Gamsu, right? You could just look over the last year in Academy and see so many opportunities to have a highlight reel. And like, I mean, you immediately think back to his bot side tower where he's getting dove 4 players onto him and he's taking 3 of them down. And I think you have so many moments where Gamsu has just been that inevitable win condition for a lot of teams. His late game, thought process for me has been insane. I mean, that's why you see him in so many of these situations because he's just thinking of the game at that level. And by the way, if you haven't yet, please spam in chat who you think will win.
That's right.
WC for Wildcard and AOE for AOE Gold. And right now, Wildcard winning here, beat down 60%.
I mean, they saw what happened to Immortals Challenger the other day, so I think their faith is pretty well placed, all things considered. I wouldn't be counting AOE out just yet. We'll have to see how things play out. And I think I want to highlight on, too, is, interestingly enough, we're seeing Keel half away from this Kalista, at least in the earlier parts of the game. Maybe he does want to play into Moose Hater, look for a top gank, because, Kasante players, they don't often take Flash, usually go for the Ghost, so they are a little bit more vulnerable, especially in these early minutes. And I'm curious to see what Keel will do in this early game.
And I want to talk about Keel at the jungle matchup as a whole a little bit more and give some background on the players, right? Because when you're looking at Keel, right, he is an experienced player, right? There's a reason there's a confidence on this guy when you hear him in interviews and you hear him on bits and things like that because he has been there. He was on CLG Academy in 2021, was also on the 100 Next Squad in 2022 when they had their success. And I think seeing him come back into the fold and have that big resurgence last year with AOE and showing his stuff at Proving Grounds, incredible stuff that, we're getting another crack at it with a pretty stacked team around him as well this time.
Agreed. And I think, jungle being a very stacked role in this league is notwithstanding, I do think that Keel is one of those players who like should be getting a look for challengers teams. I mean, I thought he was fine when he was on CLG in 2021, and last year absolutely proved himself on the various teams he played for during the Proving Ground. So I'm hoping, and this is the thing I like about this new system in the league we're in, that he gets an opportunity to continue proving himself so that other teams can be like, hey, you know what? This Keel guy, let's get him.
Watch out for his Udyr, Karthus, and Hecarim. If you want to get into the conversation, make sure you're using the hashtag NACL on Twitter, and we'll see if your tweet get posted here. But Winnie is on his first foray of looking for a gank, but bot lane's a bit too pressed up, mid lane's pretty pressed up as well. Gonna have any options here earlier on, as it's just gonna be a scuttle crab trade for both these sides. And now to go to the opposite side, right? We lauded on Keel a little bit, some of the uniqueness, but Winnie, man, we're talking about experience. This guy is a leader. This guy is a voice, and he will be so on every team that he's on, right? Starting off on Western University, which is a lot to say for AOE right now, as they have a lot of members from the original Western University and following Western University squads. But I think seeing him come from TSMA in 2020 and kind of go through this path trajectory that he has, incredible stuff, Beatdown.
Yeah, I agree. Winnie is definitely another jungler that you want to be keeping your eyes on, especially in the AoE system. He is someone who, like you said, very vocal voice. Him and Skytech are the ones you watch out for in terms of playmaking and everything in these team fights. And speaking of plays, hello.
Keel is here, though. It's a 3v2. Stun comes through onto Winnie. Double knockback from Keel. It's just going to be a gank dissuaded from a nice defensive path from Keel. And this is playing into the bit that we said. Early game, trying to make something happen for AoE. I think Wildcard have a pretty good game plan when it comes to that.
Yeah, and you could tell this kind of thing is practice. Right off base, Skytech walks to the mid lane to try and make something happen, buys the boots. And even though nothing happened, the fact that Keel was there and Skytech showing up prevented that from actually turning on AoE. So it was a good answer from Keel, and it means that this play ends up being neutral. Summoners, nothing like that, are really blown. But for AoE, you're probably looking to get more value out of this early game. So I imagine this won't be the first time when he shows his face in the mid lane. And actually, looking at that pathing, he might be coming soon.
Yeah, I actually think Keel, this Zach pick might just be so big brain for that, right? Because he has so much distance that if AoE is trying to get something going early, he can usually be there. We'll see that Winnie decided to go for a bit of an early chicken nuggy steal. Going to be an extended 2v2 between mid laners and jungles alike. 400 health here as Smite's not available for either jungle. Winnie will let that one go this time around. Dark Wings. Oh, he can't connect it. That was close.
I love that. Dark Wings. He just keeps looking. And I mean, he's a player. We talk about experience on both of these teams. I mean, Darkwing is definitely in that conversation as well. He played for Dignitas last year on their tier 2 roster. Not last year. I believe it was the end of 2021. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nizelle. But all I remember from watching that Dignitas roster was that Darkwings, he was a formidable player. I was kind of surprised to see that they didn't keep him, and another player who's obviously looking to try and get themselves back to the highest levels of play.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him in spring in 2022. The beginning split, he got changed out in summer. So a lot of time when we were looking at that change, right, we were saying, well, Darkwing seemed like he was part of that inspiring Dignitas roster in spring, and it was curious to see him knocked down to another level. But he gets a chance to kind of make his way back. And although he hadn't gotten to scrim for this week, right, I think some of these games have really stand to test that Darkwing's at a base level. Pretty strong mid laner. We'll see if Gamsu can utilize that all out to get out of there, and he does indeed. So early gank again dissuaded.
Yeah, I mean, Gamsu so far has been doing pretty good at avoiding a lot of these plays. Kind of like what we were expecting. I'm going to see. Okay, I thought he was going to stop the backs. Like at level 3, he goes for the Krugs ward. Make sure and actually ends up spotting Keel. So again, no opportunity for the surprise. Means that he's just been able to do pretty solid in this lane. He has a little tiny bit of a CS lead, and with that information, Keel showed up. Means it's an easy dragon pickup for AOE, and at that point, kind of happy with that. Oh,
I'd say so. Dragon might be contested by Keel. Keel's walking straight up into a 3v1. He flashes to get the knockback. The shockwave comes in, and there's the Wombo combo, the Wombo house combo. That wild card pick from drafted AoE have no chance. It's a double kill for the bot laner, Wildcard, and an easy dragon.
Oh man, the timing was almost perfect for AOE, but you'll notice Winnie's smite just came up, and if you're wondering why he went for that play, it's because, okay, well, I don't have an opportunity to actually secure this Drake, so we have to turn and fight. Otherwise, they risk it getting stolen and losing the fight. And unfortunately, that worst case scenario, that is exactly what came to pass with Zell. And I mean, look at it, you can see the smite.
Confidence from Keel, man. He's just like, my team's coming, I got backup.
Yeah, and this is the wombo that we were kind of expecting and talking about. The all-in potential, the Alistar WQ. You have the Shockwave from Saligo, and this is just a taste of what Wildcard are going to be able to do later on into this game.
Now we see the Rift Herald startup by AOE, so trying to get a little bit of redemption on the map. And they do so indeed. So at least they will have some gold standing at one of these plates. And I would expect now that we've kind of seen bot lane snowball a little bit out of control with 2 kills on Lens, the solo laners will be the focus for that little extra bump of gold of AOE.
A lot of attention is what Winnie's been putting into this mid lane here, and now that the Glacial Prison is available, very possible we see that one happen again. Maybe a third gank mid. They either force Saligo to flash, or they end up securing the kill, and that's how they can get some plates over to Darkwings. He's doing all right. It's true. Gamsu is also doing quite well, getting him some plates. Couldn't do no wrong, but I'm leaning towards mid lane.
Yeah, got that constant fighting, the 2v2s that could happen here. Shockwave stolen by Darkwings. There's the Glacial Prison and the
stolen
lockdown.
Shockwave.
The Shockwave, not enough damage. Saligo will make it out with a quick and ingenious flash.
Yep, well played. They didn't get the kill they wanted, and that doesn't open up the Herald play that they were hoping for. But the beauty of ganks for you blow summoners, Mazel, means you got a nice 5-minute timer to come back and try to punish that. And we'll see if Saligo's able to play out his life. At least for the moment, he's going back to base.
Saligo licking his wounds, getting back out there, though, and seeing a bit of quiet front on the side lanes. We've seen a lot of that playmaking attempting to happen in mid lane so far from both junglers, from both mid laners, and I still think would love to see Wildcard opt into this Lens bot lane a little bit more with 2-0 on the Callista here with a new quiver as well. And we'll see if they do that as Keel's getting his reset in now.
Yeah, now he has the chance to move himself towards that bottom side, and I agree with you. I think that will be a pretty good place to focus on because you do want to snowball this lead. And Lens, I mean, this is a champion he plays a lot. Champion he has a 2-0 lead on. I am surprised that we aren't seeing very much focus, but from what we know of Keel, he is a jungler that does tend to farm more often than he is ganked. You mentioned it earlier. He's big on Udyr, big on Karthus, and things like that. But when he sees those opportunities, he shows up.
He does indeed, and he actually showed up bot side. Oh!
Not quite.
Crusader trying to go for the highlight reel solo kill, but can't get it. Wildcard responding with the pressure from AoE on bot side as Keel had made his way down there pretty quickly after reset. And Winnie was actually there as well, didn't end up pulling anything off, got the back off, and we'll just kind of be 2 ships passing in the night. Gamsu in a little bit of trouble, but has some support on the way beat down.
And this is crucial. It's going to be that opportunity for the Herald play that they might be looking for, but Moosader, he knows. He's like, you know what? I haven't seen the enemy jungle in a while. What's going on here?
Let's get the
nice guess.
Dance. Got a little bit of damage here. This Glacial Prison comes out. The flash, though, will elude Winnie yet again. Frustration mounting for AoE.
A little bit, but they will still get the opportunity to drop the Herald. Actually, they're not going to. This is tough because you're running out of time. You can see it. Less than 30 seconds on that eye. Where is Winnie going to be able to drop it? Duo King is in the area. Oh, no. If Winnie dies, it's going to expire.
We were saying Winnie wanted to focus on right place, right time. So far, it's been a little bit of an issue earlier on as Keel has just been everywhere he needs to be, and the Zac pick really working out. We see the roam for Duo King as just a safety precaution. And yeah, the question is, you know, that Rift Herald probably just being dropped in the jungle at this point.
And that is pretty brutal. At least with Gamsu coming back, I think they're going to drop it towards that top side. But I mean, Wildcard has just been playing this game so very well early on. You got to give props to Keel. Actually, just this bottom side of the map in general, things really started to fall apart for AoE during that dragon fight, where they managed to give a lot of gold over to this Callista. And Lens who is in a very comfortable position right now. And unless AOE are going to be able to make some successful plays, this only gets worse for them.
The charge does go off, though, so at least they get a little bit more damage on the mid lane. But yeah, being a bit unlocked from the mid lane helps out a lot, especially when Duo King himself is on Alistair. And Duo King, we were talking about so much experience, right? Duo King has a decent amount of experience himself, right? Having come from the FlyQuest Academy in 2019. He also has a bit of a track record with mid laner Soligo, as they played on Win and Reign in A in 2017 together. So see that synergy coming alive as maybe a little bit of top lane synergy going awry in a 1v1 that leads nowhere.
Yeah, that's just how it goes. Two big beefy boys basically just handshaking with each other. And the thing, so AOE decide to drop this turret, or not this turret, excuse me. They decide to drop the dragon, let it go, not in a position to fight. And I'm curious because Gamsu has a teleport advantage over Moose Hater. So there's going to be a time where if there's a dragon fight, Gamsu can show up. And I'm wanting to see them take advantage of that in some of these plays, because at this point, AOE, some of the plays they've made, not really working out in their favor, but you need to keep up with the activity, because if not, again, this game only gets harder for you. We've seen just a taste of what the all-in of Wildcard can do.
Want to see if Winnie can get reactive onto the map. We have decent amount of damage being done by Soligo, and his Orianna is no slouch. We also have Radiant Virtues being completed for both junglers at this time, so a little bit of supportal help coming in the jungle aspect of things, but we're still looking at major mythic item completions for both Soligo, Lens, and Darkwing's Links respectively. We do finally get the Leandries completed for Darkwing's, and it sets them up a little bit potentially, but first they gotta look Bale. Duo King's taking a lot of damage from the tower, and maybe Lynx gets out of there. Nice handshake back onto Keel, but the Fate's call. Is it going to be up? The spears starting to stack up, and Lens is now on a killing spree, but Gamsu's here. Gamsu gets one. He's trying to go all out here. He does have the ulti. He's trying to buy time, though. Soligo has walked down. He got the stretching strikes, knocking them together. The shockwave, and it's all set up for Lens, and he pulls them apart. Wild card. They're 6-1, and it's easy peasy.
And this is what we keep talking about. Wildcard 2-0. The provisional team who 2-0'd a Challengers team are just continuing to make waves in this tournament so far. You just see the kind of advantage they're in at the moment. 3K up, and they're the ones making all the successful plays across the map. And AOE are really starting to flounder at this point, where there's so little available to them. You see the path towards this Rift Herald, but we already know that is not going to work out. Keel is here. Duo King is here. Experience and gold is not in your favor, so it's time to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, the entire body of Wildcard are on their way. Get a little bit of delay from Gansu, but we're fighting this, apparently. The big stretching strikes as well, and now Lens is just stacking those spears away. Lynx is already down. Darkwing's trying to tank up with that Unbreakable, but it's not going to be enough. Gamsu's finally here. Even the 1v1 on the side. Winnie is executed by Moose Hater himself, and nothing is left in front of the Rift Herald except ashes for AOE, as Skytech, he gets run down as well, and Moose Hater, he claims another one.
And it just gets worse and worse and worse. Wildcard decimating AOE. You see the pity prizes, the objective bounties are up and available, and Keel happily hopping back into his jungle. Everything is coming up Wildcard, and Lens just continues to stack up the gold on the Callista. He's 4-0, is going to get a turret to his name, and now we're going to see a replay of this fight. And I mean, all you really need to know is that Duo King has so much CC to offer.
He does. I mean, the entire team does, right? And the fact that Lens is just not able to be targeted at this point, right? You don't have the range to get onto that side of things, and the Rens are stacking up. You get the split up fight.
And that was one of the best case scenarios. And by that, I mean, like, we talked about it in Champ Select. You have the Sylas who can steal that Unbreakable Will, can sustain in these fights much longer, but he's so far behind. This whole team is far behind Mazel, so there's nothing they can actually do in these fights. I mean, this Herald wasn't an option really at this stage in the game, so I think that kind of speaks to the pressure they might be feeling here as they're taking some of these unnecessary fights and unnecessary risks.
And now things are just starting to cohese even more for Wildcard. They have a pretty beefy composition with a lot of give and take, it feels like, with Sligo and the Orianna Lens on the backline there with a lot of peel ability. it seems. And Keel is now just looking to kind of cover Lens and this mid lane, as Tower might actually die to those minions as it goes. But it's a Wildcard putting back on focus towards this mid lane while we get another classic 1v1 scuffle between Moose Hater and Gamsu.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the call from Lens. You have that wave shoved in. It will take the turret. You don't get the local gold, but you want to move mid, set up with your team for this Herald play to knock down another turret, and you have to answer it if you're AOE, because this dragon is up, but they can't go.
Here they come, stretching strikes as well, and here just comes the after party. Big hostile takeover onto them, but it doesn't do anything as two members get split out. All Out comes through to get Gamsu away. They only lose one in the end, and the dash comes through for Gamsu to get him out of there. So nicely done for AOE to scrap out of that one, but Wildcard continue to oppress.
AOE are falling apart. Mazel, that play was so difficult for them to make work because you have to answer the Rift Herald, and when you're in a gold deficit like this, you can't split up.
Yeah, you really can't, and we've seen kind of it happen multiple times right in front of that Rift Herald pit, in front of this fight right now as well. It's just kind of the split apart that happens when you don't want to be grouped against this Gump. Like, you have to be split up, and then you get even more split up by the knockaways, the knockbacks, the roots, and it's just becoming very, very difficult. This bot lane is just going to continue, or at least the top lane matchup is going to continue to be exactly what it has been, as another dragon bites the dust against Wildcard. That'll be sole point for them now.
Yes, and this has just been brutal for AOE. Wildcard have been meeting them at every play and making several successful plays of their own. And all that's left for them now, I mean, we have Baron in 30 seconds. It's probably not something we could see them start right away, but I mean, look at all the bounties across the board. There is a world where they go ahead and just start the Baron, force AOE to answer them, because Wildcard's ability to turn and fight with the comp they have, things like Zac, you have Orianna who can add the ball for the Shockwave, and of course you have the Alistar. So many ways to turn and get right on top of AOE who don't want to let a major objective go.
They can't. At this point, you got to try to get something back on the map. You got all those beautiful bounties. You can't take home the gold just yet. It's like window shopping. But you do get the Baron up on the table here for them, and at this point, Wildcard just using and flexing their muscles a little bit more here, and I want to go back to the conversation that a lot of these players have played with each other and have a lot of experience playing against each other. I think these kinds of moments are kind of surreal for the members of Wildcard, being like, all right, so game one, we stepped it up. We show that we can handle these kinds of pressure moments.
Absolutely. And I mean, they proved it in their first series. They're proving it again today. And Wildcard clearly proving to be a lot better of a team than we were expecting so far. I mean, if you looked at the... oh, we might have to hold that thought.
Oh my god, delivering the Alistar to just get a complete and total CC chain that didn't even get pulled off, because Skytech just gave his life at the end knowing what was to come, and that's an immediate focus on the Baron now for Wildcard.
Yep, not a whole lot you can do about it. They're going to try and stop it, because realistically, this is how Wildcard snowball to end the game, but what are your options, really? You have Winnie, they have the ward over the wall. He's going to try and go for the steal, but Keel says no.
About 3,500 now. Winnie baiting on the side, maybe trying to find an angle as the Integris arrow comes in. Darkwings is now in the pit. There's no jungle, but Keel goes back, and the Rend is what secures the Baron in the end for Wildcard as they move and try to set up these lane states a little bit more. Let those lane states get a little bit out of whack, but maybe they find Darkwings as a prize. He can't connect on the Soligo, and now Lens stacking up will just execute Darkwings in the top side.
Nice little thumbs up, say, nice try, buddy, but you're going to have to go to bed. And, I mean, oh
Good
my
night.
gosh. Yeah, we're 8k up as Wildcard. Baron buff in tow. They have everything they need to end game one here. All it's going to take is one big team fight, like all the ones they've been winning before in this game.
So I want to talk a little bit more about those comforts coming in for Wildcard. I mean, they did throw us for a little bit of a loop in draft, changing things up, right? The first series they had played, they played the Garen and the Zac at topside for Moose Hater. This time around, they picked the Zac thinking, oh, maybe Moose Hater's going to go with the second. Then they picked Garen third pick. So I think Wildcard just had a really good approach to this game and kind of throwing their opponent for a loop.
And I will say, I was wrong. Apparently, provisional teams can fail the test as well. Because I'm pretty sure as the season goes on here in spring, we are going to see this Garen get banned.
Oh no, Winnie. Oh, the arrows. Just gonna not connect at least, and Keel all by himself over the wall. Can't really find anything in the end. There's the rest of AOE on their way, trying to defend their jungle, but not much for them to get. And those blast cones make it a little bit more difficult to escape in those situations. Darkwings realizing he doesn't really have time to push this bottom side. We'll have to get back and defend.
Yeah, I mean, defend is a strong word. It's more like watch as you inevitably lose this tier 2 turret. And
as your base crumbles around you.
Yeah, you know, all you can do is watch. You can see Moose Hater also pulling attention away to the mid lane as the tier 3 is under threat. And the waves aren't perfectly synced up, but realistically, Baroned up minions means everyone still has to look at this top side.
And I think when moving forward from this game, right, like this draft from Wildcard really does a lot for them in terms of how the season is panning out so far, right? When you're looking at their main picks and comforts coming through, they've been able to pick those a lot in the series, and you're seeing it kind of shine through. It wasn't to the try of AOE, who had so much activity early on, but just never found a gank because Keel was always there in response. Yep. But maybe AOE can find Keel himself. Try to get him caught out here. Get the stuns up, but he is very, very tanky, and the rest of the team doesn't want to lose mid lane as well. The arrow goes down. Hostile takeover tech play from SkyTech himself, but it doesn't matter. At the end, they might find Lens. He's dying, and they do get the shutdown. The stretching strikes come through.
Oh, look who's here.
They started to get Moose Hater into the fight, though. Gobsu gets out with a nice blast cone. Handshake goes wide, and it's just a cluster in the middle of the team fight. Wildcard clean house.
And that could very well be the end, Mazel. We got 40-second spawn timers on many members in Wildcard. A very commanding victory in this team fight so far. I actually think they might not end the game just yet. They don't want to take any chances. They don't have the Baron buff anymore. But it's going to be the inhibitor and the Chemtech Soul in their favor. And Wildcard, they've got it all at this point. What more could they take away from these people, Mazel?
I mean, besides the Nexus, not much. They are going to take the soul here for themselves.
Their lunch money.
Yeah. I don't condone that. That's bullying. All right?
I agree.
We don't condone that.
Of course not.
It is the Dragon, though. It's the Hextech soul. Or not Hextech, jeez. The Chemtech.
There you go.
They actually got a little bit of play here. Saligo, Shockwave out, and movement speed plus, and the Blast Cone. Oh, man, they just can't catch a break. Shockwave comes on to Duo King. He's got the Unbreakable Will there, though, tanking up a storm. And now he's still under like, he literally has 5 people on him right now. Beat down.
No sums.
I just don't understand. Like, he just doesn't die. And you have so much reinforcement coming in from Wildcard. Duo King might go down. He finally dies after starting the fight 1v5. But it doesn't matter because they've all came and gotten what they came for. AOE wiped off the map. Winnie, the only one left, and the base in tatters. This will be a win from Wildcard.
And Winnie has to watch in horror as the base crumbles around him, as you said, Mazel. Winnie's going to try. He's going to try and get rid of this wave, but the rest of the team is here, and it's GG. Well played. A strong start for Wildcard Gaming, continuously surprising us with the level of play we've been seeing here.
Lens, Moose Hater, Keel, everyone, Saligo, Duo King, really having a standout performance today. The only ones that died were the bot lane, but it was far worth it as complete domination from Wildcard Gaming and an epic conclusion to our first game. Before we get into our second here, we are going to take a little break, and we'll be right back with our halftime bit.